Hi, I'm Mark Souza. I'm a biochemist by training, and I've been in the biotech business almost 25 years. I started my career at a company called Diax in Boston that developed two drugs for a rare genetic disease called hereditary angioedema. And this is what's referred to as an orphan disease because it affects only about 10 to 20,000 people in the US. Orphan diseases are typically diseases that affect less than 200,000 people in the USA. My career has been spent developing drugs for rare diseases, and I'm currently working on my own company called Sonalisense in Oakland, California, that's developing a drug for an orphan pediatric brain tumor called diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. The work that we do is really important because we develop drugs that impact people's lives. And these orphan diseases don't just impact a person, it impacts the family as well. So when we develop a drug that has a meaningful effect on someone's life, it affects the whole family. So we started developing a drug-device combination to treat DIPG at the request of Dr. Roger Packer, who's a professor of neurology. He's a pediatric neuro-oncologist at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. And he suggested it to us. And just with my background in rare disease, I thought that was a great idea. We also had really good science that told us that these DIPG tumors take up our drug in high concentrations. And then we can activate a product made by the tumors from our drug to kill the tumor without affecting normal brain cells. We're running a phase 1/2 clinical trial in DIPG with sonodynamic therapy. That's the name of our drug-device combinations technology. The phase 1 part, we escalated the dose of the drug and we escalated the dose of the ultrasound energy. And then now in the phase 2 part, we are expanding the use of sonodynamic therapy in a larger number of patients to look not just at its safety, but at its benefit to patients and on their quality of life. The biggest challenge we've had is really funding our clinical trial. A lot of venture capital groups and other sources of funding find that DIPG is too rare a disease. We often get the question, how am I going to get a return on my investment? On the other hand, the development side, the regulatory agencies are extremely supportive. They understand the need, they understand the science, and so far the safety profile looks really good. So we're certainly not doing any harm, and hopefully we're having a benefit in children with DIPG. We're currently conducting a clinical trial in the United States at 3 hospitals that treat children, and we'll be opening up another 4 pediatric hospitals as clinical trial sites this year, assuming we can raise the funding to do so. The trials have been going quite well. We've enrolled 9 patients in our clinical trial, and we've escalated the dose of drug and energy in those 9 patients. And so far, the safety profile has been really very good. And patients are surviving longer. They have a good quality of life. We're seeing the reversal of symptoms like reversal of double vision, smiles that were crooked are now straight. The children have gained weight, they've grown during the trial, and most importantly, they get to go home and resume school or their normal activities. We have conducted trials in the US, in Europe, in Japan, in Australia, in Canada, and other places. And the Australian government in particular has been quite favorable with their R&D tax credit, for example, to attract companies like ours to Australia. But these trials are expensive, and we're very grateful for any federal funding or funding from patient organizations that could help attract our clinical trial to Australia. DIPG is a very rare cancer. In the US, it only affects 300 children a year. That's about 1 in a million people. But I suspect it's underdiagnosed and sometimes misdiagnosed. And this is quite typical for these rare cancers or rare genetic diseases or other rare pediatric conditions. It's the reason why we should all understand that rare diseases can affect people we know, maybe even our families. Cancer affects 1 in 3 people. So it's important for the public to be aware that there are 6,000 rare diseases when 90% of those diseases have no treatments. We all know about treatments for common cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer and so on. But there are many cancers like DIPG where there are no treatments or inadequate treatments. With DIPG, radiation is the current standard of care, and it's completely inadequate. It leaves patients partially paralyzed with really terrible side effects, but that's all we have. And this is the reason we at Synallosense are developing a new way to treat DIPG. We're using DIPG as a proof of concept example on how to treat cancer differently. Our sonodynamic therapy is a drug-device combination that's a non-invasive way to treat cancer with none of the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation. We haven't seen any of those so far. We all know someone who's had chemotherapy or radiation and suffered from side effects. So our plan is if we can show proof of concept in DIPG, then we can move to other brain tumors and eventually, hopefully, to bladder, pancreatic, and other cancers. So this is just a stepping stone in the direction of trying to develop a new way to treat cancer.